Campbell, and I'm here for one reason, and that is that I have known D.G. Martin for 62 years. Is there anyone else in this room who has known him that long? Not even Harry. How long have you known him?
How long have I known him?
We can't tell.
Okay. Well, I have been his fan since at least 1962, when D.G. played for Lefty Drizel's very first team at Davidson College. D.G. was a star basketball player. He was the captain of the team, and he had a scoring average of 7.2 points.
That's probably a high estimate.
I don't know your rebounds. But it was wonderful to watch him grow up all these years. And the other thing that distinguishes me in this pursuit this evening is that I happen to own my very own D.G. Martin watch. Anybody else got one of those?
Oh.
No.
Harriet, do you have a D.G. Martin watch?
It's at the bottom of her bottom drawer.
So suddenly I'm afraid this show might be taking a different direction. We're actually here to talk about D.G.'s new edition of North Carolina's Roadside Eateries. A fine book, a fine effort from a very fine man. Thank you.
While we have him here, we got the head of UNC Press. And if you've got the head man who comes to talk about the book that he made possible.
I follow the talent.
Anybody else? We have UNC Press, and we're very glad you're here.
We
Thank
have
you.
a whole group from public television.
Oh, we're going to get to them
Okay.
later. Okay. They're here.
I promised when I asked Donna to help with this, I said I won't bother you. I'll sit and do what you tell me to, and I've already broken that rule.
Well, we do want you to talk, and you know we could. I didn't bring a basketball, but other than that, speaking of UNC TV,
PBSNC.
PBSNC, but the part I'm talking about was UNC TV, and probably 25 years ago, I was producing stories for UNC TV for a wonderful show, North Carolina Now, that was on every night. And I thought then that the guys who went out on the road, they went all over the state, led by Shannon Vickery, who was an on-air host. Shannon? Steve Price, you were on that crew back then?
Sometimes.
Galen, you were a child and you started working on that show. Who else worked on North Carolina Now? Oh, David, I'm sorry. Of course you did. But the thing is, they went everywhere in the state and they ate lunch at every meet and greet they could find. And so I thought that UNC TV sort of had they had the hold on North Carolina's roadside eateries. But then I went to work with Georgianne Eubanks, and for 10 years, she traveled all over the state creating the North Carolina Literary Trails Project for UNC Press. And we ate everywhere. We traveled to all 100 counties, all the public libraries in the state, and we ate at so many wonderful restaurants. So I thought we had it. But then came your book. And DG, I think you have eaten everywhere in North Carolina.
And it doesn't show.
No. It's remarkable to me that there are 120 in this book. Amazing.
Well, all right, Donna. Now, why do you think I asked you to help?
Because I've known you for 62 years.
You're the most wonderful person, but there was another reason as well. I didn't want to give a speech, and I knew that you and Georgianne in the preparation of her magnificent 3 books, also published by UNC Press, about literary people in North Carolina, and including where they ate. And I looked at one of your books and said, you've done more in your book. And so I said, if you're gonna get my book, you better get Georgianne's book to put in the glove compartment with you.
We appreciate that, DG. That was good. This is going to be an evening to remember, ladies and gentlemen, and we're glad you're all here. I look out and I see friends. First of all, can those of you in the back of the room hear us without microphones? Are you okay with that?
He's got to speak up. We're all
we can't hear.
Well, okay, do you want us to use the mic?
No, that's true. Testing.
Yeah.
Testing, 1, 2.
Much better.
So the usual practice here at Flyleaf is for the author, the celebrated author, to maybe do a few readings and take a few questions. And we could do that, but we have such a great audience here tonight that I hope that we'll do it a little differently. So we're going to ask, with your permission, DG, we're going to ask people to share what they know of food in North Carolina, and particularly the restaurants that you've mentioned in the book. Before we do, is there anything else you want to talk about with the book?
Well, I want to talk about one other thing, and that is, you talked about the 60-some years that we've known each other, and Donna's family, all, how many children? Anyway,
So many.
and her mother and dad, her dad did a lot of things, but one of the places that we got to know him at Lake Norman, he owned John's Trading Post. And it was where people came on the lake to get their bait, to get their groceries, to get their advice from John. And it turned into one of those miracle places that became a model for my book, where people gather and talk about things, where Trumpers and non-Trumpers get together and talk about the things that they have in common. And so
I appreciate that, DG. I thank you. My parents thank you. Y'all were great customers. And we did make a really good hot dog with chili and slaw, and we really made a delicious grilled pimento cheese sandwich, and I thank you for remembering that. I don't know that there's a living soul in this room who's ever heard of John's Trading Post, except for my sister, Susan Campbell, Paul Johns, Harriet, of course. Okay, thank y'all. Thank you. Well, that'll be our next book. How about that? Okay, but in those 62 years, you've done many, many things. You traveled the state. And I know now how you got to all the restaurants, because you were doing your wonderful work for the university. You were doing your beautiful your broadcast on WCHL. You had a weekly column, and still have, in the newspapers of North Carolina. You had noble and important political campaigns in 1984 for Congress, and later in that ill-fated campaign for Senate.
Whose name we will not speak.
That's right. If we could just turn back the hands of time. And then traveling with this book. Now, I've read it, and I haven't been to all these restaurants, but you've given credit to a couple of places as the place, besides John's Trading Post, that gave you this inspiration. One was Ed's in Raleigh. How many of you have ever been to Ed's? Big Ed's. Yeah, I thought so. Where else did he say he started this whole idea? What's the one that...
Bullocks.
Bullocks? You said you got the idea of Bullocks?
Bullocks is the you told me we didn't have you for long. Well, let's talk. Can we talk about Bullocks?
Yeah,
sure.
This is your show.
Why would Bullocks? Thank you so much. Why would Bullocks be in the book, and be one of the most important books? That is, the food's fine, but it's not, there's no chef in the back. But it's a place where people feel comfortable to come and see their friends and to see other people. It's a community institution as well as a place to eat. So yeah, Bullock's was when I was working at temporarily at North Carolina Central University, and my staff drug me over there, and I loved it. And it became, yeah, it's a real important part of the book. But it's not the barbecue. You know, you wouldn't put it up in competition for the best barbecue in the world. But it's good barbecue, and it's reliable, and they're good vegetables and good people to go with it. And that's sort of the model of the place that I wanted. I wrote a column a couple of weeks ago about the finest diner in North Carolina, which is, what's the wonderful chef's name? Anyway, it is the finest diner, but it's not really a diner. It's a place where you get fine food. Pools.
Oh, pools.
Pools, yeah, pools, yeah. Cool pools, yeah. So we have to distinguish what we're looking for and whether or not that's worth looking for. Because some of you would say, well, did you all the socialization and talking and visiting with the owner and the other, I just want fine food. Well, you don't need my book because I'm not going to take you to Where did you say you told us to go to the barbecue, didn't you, in Hillsborough? Yeah.
Are you going to open it up to Lee Smith?
Yeah, well,
okay.
Of course.
Okay. So let me ask, if you could stand, that would be great. If you could stand and introduce yourself so that others can hear, and then you can say or ask anything.
I'm laughing because I still, what is the name of that barbecue that I like so much? that you get to a certain age, and this is what happens. It's Hillsborough Barbecue. I mean, that's it. But it's the same kind of place that you're talking about, where everybody gathers, and you're going to go in there and you're going to see some people you really like, and then you're going to meet some other ones that you will really like, and you're just going to have a real good time. And you can also eat pie that is this high, you know, and it's just absolutely wonderful. So I love Hillsborough Barbecue. In fact, I'm getting ready to have a family reunion, and they're going to do it. So I'm delighted. But anyway, I love the way DG writes about food, because he's always writing about the people and what you do there and the feeling and who comes. And to me, that's what dining is all about. It's a chance to be with other people, and you know, you get to feel extra good because you're eating.
Well, Donna, I don't know, growing up in North Mecklenburg and South Iredell, the Mallard Creek Barbecue was a wonderful place.
The Ayler family.
The Ayler family, yeah. And, you know, we knew them. They were our buddies. But the last time I went, I was really disturbed. It wasn't because of the food, because the barbecue was done the same way and still good, but the line of cars parked to take out. I mean, people were just zipping by. They were getting their meals and taking them and eating them someplace else. Well, that was good for the church because they were making a lot of money. But for me, my memory of Mallard Creek Barbecue is sitting around the tables, visiting with my, you know, high school classmates or so, anybody, or political people arguing about politics. So the Mallard Creek Barbecue is one of the models of the kind of place that I recommend. I wish I could write about them, but it's only in business one or 2 days a year.
But it's exactly the thing as what Lee mentioned too, that the experience of eating together and seeing people you like, and it's a bonus if the food is good.
That's right.
Anyone else out there? I mean, we really are going to share this time together, and
So I don't need that. I think everybody will hear me.
Okay.
I grew up in Ardell County, also.
Ardell.
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 Give Georgianne, I think you need the microphone.
Thank you.
Okay. So I grew up near Keaton's. I have not been back since the kids took over.
Okay.
And my memory of Keaton's and a couple of other restaurants is the food that had not been processed yet was still in the backyard eating insects. And my question is, and also you didn't get any sides except for a slice of bread, which most of the time was actually a bun. But and you got a roll of paper towels on the table, and there was a sink on the wall that everybody could wash their hands at. I don't know how much has changed. The question is, how many other restaurants have you been to where the food to be is visible from the restaurant?
I can't. But have any of y'all been to Keaton's? I mean, it's a place every North Carolinian should have to go. And it's African American owned, but mostly white patrons. There are a lot of stories about Keaton's, but one of them has to do with the handgun that the first Mr. Keaton had at the cash register, just in case somebody wanted to make some trouble, he was going to take care of it. But the other one was the story about the woman in Winston-Salem and her two daughters, and they would come down there to Keaton's, which is a dump, believe me, in their limousine.
It's a Cinderella.
It's okay. And the girls had grown up and were working in the things that young women do in the cities for magazines or clothing places or something. But when they came back, they wanted to go to Keaton's, and they brought their own silverware with them.
And according to D.G. Martin, they came down in a chauffeured Rolls Royce, bringing their own silverware and cloth napkins. Page 36.
Would ask about silverware. Old Mr. Keaton would say, "We eat with our hands."
We could do a whole show on Keaton's.
On Keaton's,
But
yeah,
so about 10 years ago, our sister Cindy Campbell and I were driving from Carrboro down to our farm in Iredell County, and I was driving, and so Cindy, as she would do, was reading whatever the latest headlines were or magazines, and she had a copy of, I think it was Saveur or Bon Appetit.
Or Gourmet.
Was it Gourmet? I just wanted to practice my French. Okay. She had a magazine, and so she was reading aloud to me as we were driving, and I really loved that. And and she said they're doing the top 10 restaurants in the South. One of them in North Carolina. It's in Iredell County. It's 2 miles from our farm. And it was Keaton's, and we went, and it was everything that DG says in the book. It's just an amazing place. So you must go to Keaton's.
Well,
Thank you, DG.
Well, I need to stop and have a little bit to eat now.
So their specialty is a fried chicken that's
Barbecued fried chicken.
Barbecued fried chicken. I don't even know how, you have to eat it to try it. But anyway, like I said, we could do a whole show on Keaton's. Who else has a restaurant memory or a DG memory that they'd like to share with us? Shannon, I see you.
You know I have one.
Hey DG.
Hey, Shannon.
Well, thank you again for just everything you've done throughout all these many years, especially for then UNC TV, now PBS North Carolina, and for all of your incredible service for the state. You know, I've had the honor throughout the years of interviewing DG on a lot of different topics, you know, current events, books, you name it. I think over the years we've talked about it. And what always impresses me about DG whenever I talk to him is, number one, the meticulous research that he does on any topic that he is working on. And then how he goes out and he experiences it, and he talks to everybody who is involved with, you know, whatever it is that he's looking into and thinking about. And then he captures all those great insights and he then shares them with all of us. And that's, you know, DG, that's the wonderful thing about this book. And, you know, why I'm excited that there's now a second edition to go along with the original one, which I still have on my bookcase and I'm proud of. But I would love, you know, the great thing about a book like this and everything we've been talking about is how it really captures North Carolina and the state in a really unique and wonderful way. And with so many people moving into North Carolina now, what do you hope? They pick up the book, they read it, they, you know, see all of your insights about these wonderful places. What do you hope they learn about the great state that we all love?
Oh, Shannon, that is so nice. I'm sorry. That's just that's great, and it calls for a rebuttal to celebrate what you've done for North Carolina and bringing us all together, and the cheerfulness with which you've done it, and then to go into business, getting some resources to make sure it continues. But I remember one of the little newspapers in Columbus County fell in love with Shannon and got her to come to be the queen of the pecan queen. I'm waiting for you to write a book about being the pecan queen.
Pecan queen, wow. Did North Carolina Now cover that?
You know, I think we did actually.
I don't know where to go.
Oh, wow. Oh, I know where to go. I see hands in the back. Okay, just tell us who you are.
I'm Ed Preston, old pal of DG. DG, would you mind bringing us up to date or reflecting a little bit on what's happened over the last, say, 5 years with the eateries? I know you've seen some fade away, sadly, and some have struggled. What's happened? Tell us.
Well, Ed, as a young man, you don't know how times do change. By the way, Ed, it didn't make it to the book because we didn't get into the mountain highways like we wanted to. But Ed and his wife, Nancy, is Nancy? Oh, there she is. And they took an assignment to go visit 3 mountain restaurants and came back with fantastic details. And if we ever do another book, I hope some of the rest of you will give that kind of help. But what's happening? And I mentioned one of the things happened is like at Mallard Creek Barbecue, where people don't hang around to talk. They go home. It's takeout. It's a takeout world. And it makes me angry because people will go to a wonderful restaurant and get the food and take it out, and we'll have to admit that we do that too. But I think that notion that we don't value the society as much as we do the food. We want to get the food, get away from these goddamn people on the other side politically and other things. And so that's one of the things that's happening. The other thing is COVID dealt a terrible blow to small restaurants. And then there is the other thing is that we get old. And the people who owned and ran some of the best country cooking or barbecue restaurants were folks who'd done it for 50 or 60 years. And their children had watched what was going on and decided that wasn't what they wanted to do the rest of their lives. And so we've lost, those places have closed. The place, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, we're trying to do this. What was the place down in your hometown that I love so much?
Fuller's.
Well, yeah, Fuller's too, but no, this is a little white woman run a restaurant downtown.
Linda's? Lumberton?
Oh,
Linda's?
Yeah, Lumberton.
Candy Sue's.
Candy Sue's.
Oh, yeah.
Just ran out of customers.
I know.
And it was, this was an important part of the book before it closed, because it was where you ate. And we tried to catch the train of your fame and put it in the book. Now it's gone.
Well, should I stand? Okay. Candy Sue's in Lumberton, definitely, it is missed. And I ate there many, many times. And Fuller's, way back, which you have written about. What I needed to tell you way back was, if you had gone to the Chinese restaurant out on I-95, they always had collards and barbecue. And hush puppies at the Chinese restaurant. But anyway, I'm Jill McCorkle from Lumberton. I just want to veer off to the side a little from the food and talk about what an ambassador you are for our literary community. Television, radio, newspaper reviews. Not a writer comes through this state with a book without getting your attention. And it's devoted, insightful, loving attention. And you give us that. I feel like Bill Friday brought so many people together, and he really passed the baton to you. And I know he would, because I ran into him one time and he's like, I saw you talking to DG the other night. So he was keeping up, and he passed the baton to the right person. And you read everything that comes out of the state, and you eat everything that comes out of the state. So I do want to know, how do you stay fit? Many of us want to know.
Jill, that's the makings of a great writer. And I don't want to stop and shift from food to writing. It's all the same. It's getting together. But I love to watch somebody who can make it something into a story. And you just did it. It was wonderful. I wish I could do that same thing. Still,
We've got lots of hands. Thank you, Jill.
Talking about how DG stays in shape. Have you ever tried to follow him on his bike? Anywhere. He doesn't do that anymore, but he could whiz.
oh, thank you, Toby.
Thank you. Oh, sure.
I'm from Gold Farm, and Wilbur's, back when Wilbur's was alive, was a great restaurant. You could get fried okra there, and collards, of course, and great barbecue.
Talk right into that part.
Okay.
Put it right up in your mouth.
Put it in your mouth.
Not that tasty. But it's under new management now, and I think is doing well also. But I remember when Wilbur was alive, it was a great spot and a real milestone to go to in East North Carolina. And I also want to thank DG and put in a plug for my daughter, who DG interviewed, and Jane Borden, and was.
You could send me more like Jane.
And she, of course, loved it, and great success for her too. So
well, we're proud of Jane. We wanted her to stay in North Carolina where she belonged. Maybe we'll get her back sometime. But you raised a wonderful young woman. give Vicki half credit for that.
Hey, DG Catherine Snow Smith.
Oh, Catherine, I'm so glad to see you. For those of you, her daddy was the most popular columnist ever in North Carolina, I guess.
Yeah, well, my dad actually introduced me to you one time. You're both getting, as we call it at the paper, your mug shots taken for new signature pics. And he said, that man is a real prince. And that's a great word for you. So I was going to say the same thing about the takeout. And I've been in Florida for too long, and I'm back in North Carolina. And I went off the, now 70 doesn't go right past Wilbur's, but I went out of my way to stop on the way home from the beach a couple of years ago. And I was going to go in and eat and get some takeout. And you can't even order takeout in the restaurant. You have to do it on an app in your phone in the parking lot. And Wilbur would not like that at all. And this is not so much a roadside stand, but it's something that's very familiar in North Carolina and in the South. My family, we went to Hudson Belk for dinner at Crabtree many nights, and then my dad and so many people who worked downtown went to the Hudson Belk downtown, and there was a whole culture of people that would go to a cafeteria once or twice a week, or even after church, and that is just, I guess, gone. And how did we come to that? Because we weren't going for the food. It's exactly what you were saying. You were going to, and you always ran into 17 people you knew. So what happened to the cafeterias, and do we really miss them?
Well, there's a real sad story from the couple who are right in front of you who go to church where a wonderful cafeteria was, and right next door, the cafeteria closed, and they're going to put a chicken drive-through, Chick-fil-A drive-through right next to the church. Instead of the place where you gathered, it's a place where you get your food and go.
And it's not even open on Sunday.
And thank God.
DG, can I ask you a question?
Georgian, yeah.
What was the name of that fish camp in Burgaw?
Oh, golly.
They got flooded?
Yes.
So that's another besides COVID and people changing their habits. The hurricanes that we've had.
Fuller's
was a victim. Yeah.
The weather's not always.
Do you know that the one of the principals in Cracker Barrel is from Lumberton and is a Lumbee, which I didn't know until recently. But what's the name of that place, Donna? Anyway, that fish camp we went to with an intern, a video intern who was working with us doing some production. He was from Nigeria, and we went to the fish camp, and he was so excited that they had frog legs there. I'd never been to a restaurant in North Carolina that had frog legs, at least not that kind of restaurant. And he ordered them. We were very impressed, but he declared them, was it too chewy and too dry? They weren't like Nigerian frog legs. So.
Oh, that's
what
cute.
is the name of that? What is that?
Well, we'll find it.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Holland Shelter Creek.
Holland Shelter Creek.
Yes.
Yes, you could you could rent a boat and eat there.
I'm Bill Gibson. I live on Old Folks, so I'm not too far from here. That DG is familiar with.
Now you may be.
My question, DG, is of the 120 restaurants in your book, did any of them give you food poisoning?
Yeah, but we settled. I got a good lawyer. Hey.
Hello, I'm Ed Harrison. I was
once the political boss of Durham/Chapel Hill.
Well, I was very active in politics before coming to Chapel Hill in Durham, and there was one particular restaurant, not Bullock's, that was really important to Durham politics. You never saw the meetings, though they were always in a back room. And I basically sat there and didn't speak unless spoken to. It's called the Chicken Hut. Have you ever heard of it?
Yes, but as a politician, I didn't have to go through the suffering.
Did you ever go there?
No.
Because I remember the president of North Carolina Mutual Bank turned to me in his really expensive suit, a very nice suit, which I was not wearing anything like that. And he said, interesting how the only one we're here at the table that gets food. And I said, how can I not buy this food? It's true soul food. But that's one that it's inner city roadside, but it was really worth the trip.
Well, is it still open? Is it still open? Next,
Probably for takeout, yes. Yeah. But last I heard it was, yeah.
Check it out. It's open.
It's open, yeah. Okay.
It's
Try to buy it. Yeah. Good. You go there?
Yeah.
Yes, I thought you did. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I knew you know what it was because it was a player in Durham politics. Thank you.
I'm Lynn York. I'm from Surrey County. And the first conversation I had with DG was when he invited me to be on Book Watch, when my first novel came out. And I was really nervous, and I think he was trying to make me more comfortable. So we started talking about food. And he knew all the restaurants in Surrey County, the ones that were living and the ones that were gone, including Ray's Starlight, which was one of my favorites. And we started talking about snappy lunch, and before I knew it, I was comfortable. And I got through that. I think I made some sentences while I was during the interview. And then DG wrote about my book in his column, and I get this call from New York. And my editor is like, who is this guy? You have, mentions of your book all over the state of North Carolina. And that reminds me what you've done for so many writers, just to sort of notice us and to, make what we've done seem important, not only to us, but to those folks in New York who can also be, not so familiar with North Carolina. And I have to say one more thing, that you are the friend to our little press, Blair, down here in North Carolina, and we can always count on you to read our books and love them. And that's huge in today's world where publishing is such a big, tough business.
Well, what you're doing and what you've done to revitalize Blair, to reach out for different kinds of books. I'm sure not all of them have been profitable, but you have to take a risk as a publisher when you're doing that. And but what a service to North Carolina. I mean, we got UNC Press, we got you here, we got the big dogs.
That's right. That's right. Well, with your help, we appreciate it.
The big dog speaks.
Well, my wife Polly and I had the privilege of doing a 10-hour road trip to Manteo with Mary at DG, and it was one of Talia's favorite experiences for life. Mine too. And DG said to me, he said, John, UNC Press, it's so prestigious, so amazing. I can't believe you all are letting me publish with you.
I still can't.
I know, and I need you to know that what we're hearing tonight, this fabric that's being stitched tonight about a part of the state that's kind of slowly eroding and fading away, has been captured by you in this work that you've done and in this community that you've built. And I also want you to know that your voice is vital to the state of North Carolina. A number of people have talked about this kind of sub-rosa experience you have of like supporting others. But I just want you to know how proud we are that we're capturing your voice in this. So thank you.
Thank you.
So my name's Helen. I work at UNC Press, but food focused. So my family's Greek, and my grandpa came over here from Cyprus, moved to New York, and then wanted a beach. So he just saw Wilmington on a map and retired there and opened a barbecue restaurant, Mike's Barbecue, in Wilmington. And he retired just before I was born, so I never was alive while the restaurant was open. But just hearing all of this, it just really makes me think of people that come to North Carolina from other countries. That story of the Chinese restaurant with collards on the menu, hush puppies. It's like what people like to eat, and he's like he had a diner in New York and a cheeseburger for lunch every day of his life, and then moved to North Carolina and started barbecue. So I just love to think about the kind of melting pot in North Carolina and the people that come here and just either put their own food and culture into the mix and then also kind of take some of ours. But question-wise, I'm just curious, how fun was it to have your assignment be to just drive and eat? Like, that's really just my question.
I asked Harriet. She was glad to get me out of the house. Helen, thank you for all you've done to promote the book. UNC Press doesn't leave orphans out there, nor does Blair, and we don't succeed unless the people who are publishing us believe in us. And I really do thank you. I wish Lucas Church were here, my great editor, and I would, if he were here, I would tell some stories, but I'm going to tell him. Anyway, one of the days that I'll remember forever, was about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. We knew that the book, if it were going to stay on the shelves, had to get updated. And so we worked really hard. He worked hard, and the other people at the press worked hard to get whatever the last step is, where it's all, you can't change it. It's there. That's too bad. That's it. And we were at that point, and Lucas called me and said, "We got to talk." And I kind of knew what he was going to have to say, was that we would have to postpone the new edition, or what is now the latest edition, until we could settle down with COVID and see which ones of our restaurants we lost, we were going to lose. But I mean, all of you have worked on a project where you got to the very end and then all of a sudden, whoa, can't do it. And I remember that was not a good day. I agreed. They didn't have to persuade me that it was the right thing to do. But there's an interesting dynamic. Lucas is maybe 30 years younger than I am, 20 or 30, maybe more than that. And Georgianne would agree that what I was doing is not what everybody would want to do. So Lucas would want to put in a Laotian restaurant, and he would succeed, but that wasn't really what we were doing. We should have a book about the great foreign places, but the people who I wanted to go to Bullock's were not going to go to anyway, Lucas won every argument that we had on that basis, and thank goodness, because he knew he was doing better than I did.
I'm sorry he's not here, so we could thank him.
No,
but we're really glad this edition came. The newest edition is out. And if I could just go back to Helen, may I? And just say, I too appreciate all you're doing to promote this book. But we have a room filled with believers here, people who love D.G. Martin. So is there anything that you need us to do to promote this book?
I think you're here. That's the wonderful thing, and supporting, and just tell people about the book. People know DG, people know the first edition, and they know that there's a good second edition out there with a lot of fun updates. So thank you everyone for coming out. This has been a really wonderful.
Makes a good gift.
It makes a good gift. It's something that you should have in the glove compartment of every car in North Carolina. I think it would come in handy. Is there an electronic version?
No, I don't think so.
There's no app for that? Okay.
We like books.
Yes, we do like books. We do like books.
This reminded me, the new interim chancellor has a wonderful spouse who's written one of the great UNC Press books on North Carolina art and artists and collectors. Wonderfully illustrated with lots of color pictures.
Liza Roberts.
Liza Roberts, right? And a book that I fell in love with. and you all would too, because it combines what we want to know about the local artists and local collectors, and then we get to look at what they've collected or what they've done. So I saw one of the first days that Lee Roberts was on campus as the interim chancellor. We ran into each other, and I said, I really love your wife's book, which was honest, but I thought it was nice of me to tell him that. He said, oh, we like your book. We keep your book in the glove compartment. So that moment was worth all the work by putting the book together. That's all I got.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Anybody else for Shannon? Thank you for bringing up his days at UNCTV. But we've got some of these other guys from PBS North. Oh, okay. Sorry, we've got somebody back there. But be thinking
You're
about
on the
what
hook,
you
PBS.
My name is Wood Burns. I have coffee office with DG at Sutton's, but what I would like you to comment on, if you would, some of the characters of the people that ran these eateries or restaurants that you would consider unique. And the reason I'm mentioning that, I grew up in Charlotte, and there was a place called Park Place Pharmacy. It basically was a pharmacy but an eatery. And the person that ran the eatery part of it was Fred Hood. And I can see Fred was a big, huge ex-Golden Gloves boxer. And he also had a good sense of humor. And there was a couple people that would come in to have their lunch sandwiches and whatnot.
And orangeade.
Right, orangeade and sandwiches. But I can remember one time that then I used to jerk sodas behind the counter there. There was one young man that would come in and would always check the phone on the wall to see if there was any change in Well, Fred saw him coming and rushed back to where I was working and got a spoonful of mayonnaise and put it in the slot for this young man to get his coins out. And I just mention this because he was a unique individual, and there had to be people like that you've run into in your travels that you might want to mention.
I hadn't got that good a story.
I don't think I can top that one. So I want to thank UNC Press and DG. I'm Lynn Blanchard. I work at UNC and I help coordinate the annual Tar Heel bus tour. And you all have donated books. We have a lot, while all the faculty and senior administrators are traveling the state, we have trivia. And we have North Carolina trivia, and we'll ask questions, and if you get it right, you often get a book. And I think that is one of the highlights of the tour. And I have to tell you that there's so many faculty and senior administrators, it is a transformational experience to learn about the state. And it has changed the way people are teaching and the way that they do their research, and some of your support helps make that happen.
Oh, thank you, man. Ben and some of the others are friends with parents of my great friend Robert Bashford, who we lost a couple of years ago. And I wish Robert could be here to go on a tour with you and also to criticize
I knew
him.
Robert about as long as she's known you.
Yeah, that's right.
Our mothers were great friends.
Anyone else over here?
I got a question for DG.
Well, do you mind? Thank you.
DG, one of the places I've always wanted to get you to go to, but they haven't built an interstate down in Stanley County yet.
It's going to be a while.
It was Whispering Pines. Okay, but the Whispering Pines in Santa County, outside of Albemarle, was a place that as a young kid would go. And we got to remember that some of us who look like this grew up in the Jim Crow era. So they were over here, and we were over there. But the Whispering Pines, we were together. Now the restaurant wasn't big enough to support everybody to go inside to eat, so we'd sit outside on the benches in the cars. But it was the only time as a young man that we were integrated. So I think these eateries do that as well. I know that Bees down in Greenville is the same way. The physicians at the medical school down there come out and sit with the workers, black and white. So it's sort of like the cafeteria you're talking about. You know, we've lost them, but it's great.
No, that's great, and that's for somebody like you who can write a good book. The influence and the some torturous changes that we made. For instance, here in Chapel Hill, where they're still talking about the young people who tried to crash in a segregated restaurant. And we're just it was called the Pines then, and it's not a pretty part of it. But we worked through that in a way that now people, I don't know that there are any restaurants in my book where both races wouldn't, or all races wouldn't be welcome. Might be, but that's another book for UNC Press or for Blair to publish.
We're on a more profound route right now, but I can tell a Wilbur story if I can bring us back to food again. Back in the 1980s, I was on a nonprofit board that decided to go with management company for managing our national and international organization, actually. And we met in Kansas City. So the CEO was a big basketball fan. This was back in the 1980s, and we were doing pretty well here with basketball too. So we had two big arguments going, he and I. One was basketball, you know, who's the better team? Kansas was doing well, Carolina was doing well. The other one was barbecue, which is better, that Kansas barbecue, which, you know, I'm not sure you really call barbecue. They're ribs, and they do things like that with it, but, you know, it's one pulled pork kind of stuff. And North Carolina barbecue. So we went for a whole week arguing over this, and we finally decided we'll settle it with whoever wins the next basketball game. I was really cocky. Carolina, I knew was going to come through. So he was to send me a meal for my family if Kansas won. I knew Carolina was going to win, and I said, "All right, I'll send barbecue to you folks, to your staff." I didn't realize how big his staff was. We lost. Oh. Wilbur, I still can't believe it. Wilbur packed up in dry ice big boxes of barbecue and sent it to his staff of 20 people. And they did decide it was pretty good stuff after all.
Well, I guess.
No, it was Wilbur's. No, it was Wilbur's. No, I called them. It wasn't Bullets.
Well, you all know the struggle that Wilbur's has had, and we and UNC Press had to take them in and out of the book several times as Wilbur's got in trouble with the taxing authorities, and then had to close up, and then that opened up again. And the problem is that we didn't get it back in time. And so this book, already calling for a third revision to get Wilbur's back in there.
They had fried chicken livers too, DG.
Well, you don't want to get in an argument with the Goldsboro native about what is good barbecue in North Carolina.
Some of the other lost restaurants that I'm thinking about, Anderson's in Charlotte and that pecan pie, the Cook Shack in Union Grove. Oh, thank you for including it before writing about them. Yeah. Toot and Tell and Garner, how many of you have ever been there? We're do you people eat? If you or the toot and tell. Have you been to Price's Chicken Coop in Charlotte? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I have a quick story about that. So
Okay, Mr. Steve Price.
On my
Is that your family?
Well, on my TV travels, the crew would always eat at Price's Chicken Coop. And it's like a cinder block, square building with counter service, only takeout, no drinks. And it was built in the 60s there were factories all around, so factory people would come in to get a takeout lunch and eat it back at their factory. So I would go there. What was unique was my name is Steve Price, and the owner's name was Steve Price. So he was constantly trying to sell the business to me because it was from a paperwork standpoint, it was like really simple. So he knew me, and every time I come in, he would talk about selling me the business. Because, as other people mentioned, he had got the business from his father, but his children wanted nothing to do with it. And he just got to the point where he couldn't take it anymore. But then, because the neighborhood had gentrified around him, the land that the little cinder block hut was on was worth millions of dollars, so it had to go away. So it was very sad when that went away. It was some of the best chicken I'd ever had.
Thank you, Steve.
Well, David, you've traveled all over the state. You're not going to contribute to this?
Georgianne. David Hardy.
David Hardy. Sorry, I'll get you. David Hardy.
Well, thank you. I am David Hardy. I produced North Carolina Weekend, which will be on tonight. And I've had the pleasure of working with DG on the Our State show as well. And he did a really interesting story with me about Chang and Ing, the Siamese twins.
You pulled that together the way UNC Press had to pull this book together.
So, and also I'm fortunate enough to have Bob Garner do some stories for me every now and then too. So we were just at the Hen and the Hog, which is not really a roadside diner, but it is a good restaurant, and it's about the only restaurant in Halifax. And Patterson Wilson did a lot to revive that whole downtown, and that restaurant's temporarily closed, but about to reopen with a new menu. So yeah, DG, I just want to say thank you for all you did with the TV show Our State and North Carolina Weekend as well. It was always fun working with you.
Well,
and,
you
making
can't
sure
quit.
your tie was straight and that kind of thing. You know,
You can't quit now. You got us used to learning about our state, so don't.
Well, it's a lot of fun, and it is a labor of love to work on that show, North Carolina Weekend, because you know, we have a lot of viewers, and I feel like we can help a little restaurant or shop or tourist attraction that if they get a little bump when it comes on our show, and that's the power of public television. Shannon.
We love it when you get our menus. Delicious.
Yeah.
Bob Garner.
I had to change my editing style with Bob Garner. I don't show him putting the food in the mouth as much. He takes big bites, and it just. So you'll see on the new shows, I kind of dissolved him after he's swallowed. But Bob's a big fan of yours too, and so anyway, thank you, DG, for all you've done for PBS.
Well, I've got one more.
Oh, good.
DG, another question for you. You're certainly the one of the experts on barbecue in the state. Another one is John Shelton Reed, an old friend. Do you guys ever put your heads together and talk barbecue, the do's and the don'ts and the ups and downs, and should we or shouldn't we, and all of that?
Thank you, Ed. We get together, and I listen. He is remarkable, but he's also stubborn and headstrong. And so if the meat that he wants us to eat has come anywhere close to an electric oven, no dice. It's got to really be genuinely wood cooked. John Shelton Reed is also written some great books for UNC Press, and his barbecue book is something that anybody who cares about cooked meat and want to do it right should read. He's I wish you were here. I can't describe how wonderful John Shelton read his.
Well, DG, according to the DG Watch, our time is over. I'm sorry. I don't know if anyone else has a pressing question, but I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight and for expressing your appreciation for this man. I want to express my appreciation and love for you, DG.
Well,
thank you for everything.
Coming back to you.
Absolutely.
There's nobody else who could have done this, and I thank you so much.
Oh, gosh, thank you. Thank you. Has everyone gotten the autograph that they need for the book that they're going to put in their glove box? All right, one more time, DG Martin, ladies. DG, this can be a show.
DG, I will tell you.
Good to see you, my dear.
Good to see you. I was looking through here. And we went to Paul's Place hot dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Castle Hayne. When I was little, my aunt and uncle, it was their favorite thing. And the first year we did, the drive from where we lived in Wilmington to Paul's Place seemed like...
It really is. Yeah. It is. I have a ball cap. I'll give it to you. It matched this sweater.
And of course he has the M&M, and well, M&M soda shop, that's now just a soda shop. That's special in my heart. Also good to see you.
Good to see you too.
She did good.
She did good. Yeah.
Did very good.
All right, I'm gonna run it. Okay, thanks. Hey, did she talk to you about getting that pesto back? Do you have any left? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay.
I'm not coming in the morning.
Okay.
Oh,
right.
Fancy.
But I'll bring it up.
We'll see you this weekend.
You're close.
I'm doing very good. Where are you going? Off Main Shop.
Yeah, it's like Pleasant and Barrington. Or Capitol Hill It's always going to be there.